So you've done all that you need to do in order to integrate with Epic. You've learned all the FHIR APIs, you've done everything right. But then when it's time to actually launch your app, are you facing trouble actually getting it on the store? And you're facing trouble with users actually using your app. So this is a little known fact, but then Epic actually quite actively tries to not allow developers to like quickly get through their bunch of red tape and get their apps out there. So there is actually a trick to this, especially if you are building a patient app. Okay, so Epic has this page on their Epic on FHIR website, and there is this thing called the automatic client record distribution. What this means is that as soon as you put you can create an app on the Epic Sandbox, and we are going to see how we can do that. But then if you meet certain criteria, your application will be automatically distributed to almost all the community members that use Epic. So by community members, they actually mean real hospital systems, and Epic actually constitutes more than 50% of inpatient beds. So it's like they are literally the monopoly when it comes to EHRs in the US. So if you take a look at the list of vendors, you can actually, a list of hospitals, you can take a look at that here, the FHIR endpoint, Epic. So if you take a look at the open.epic endpoints, you can see all of the different endpoints that are available here. So you can making this a little bigger, but these are all of the FHIR endpoints. For example, Barton Health, Bay Clinic, Bayfront Clinic, A to Z. Everything is on here. But before your app can actually make a FHIR API request and use Smart on FHIR, your app needs to be registered as a client on their system. For example, in Cleveland Clinic. Now, that is where the client distribution mechanism comes in. So let's say you create an app using using the Sandbox. So let's say I just want to manage my apps. I can like build apps here. So I will create a new app here. Let's say, super fast app, right? And if it's a patient app, public, that's not really required. You need to select a few APIs that will be used here, right? So I'm going to just say, I just want to know about patient.read, right? Nothing else. Or let's just make it even simpler. Observation dot search labs. Like I just want to be able to search on labs. That's basically it. Now observation.search labs and then redirect URI. So for now, I'm just going to do an example. http example.com. I'm going to add another HTTPS example.com. It's not confidential. Let's save this. And that's about it. They ask you a little bit more testing, that's fine. Intended purposes, we are going to say it is for patient, public health, that's cool. Individual caregiver, and terms and conditions. Again, let's just make it example.com. And now before you click on save and ready for production, there are a few conditions if you meet. This app will actually get distributed across all Epic installations in a matter of days, right? Like maybe in the next 48 hours, you can actually have real patients using your app to access real information. So what are these conditions? So let's take a look. Again, let's go to the documentation and go to the patient-facing apps, and let's see what qualifies for automatic client ID distribution. So the first thing is that you can just use the USCDI scopes. So the application is created through Epic on FHIR. Yes, we did that. In Epic August 2024 or later, yes, we did that. Uses only USCDI v3 FHIR APIs. Or if it is before May 24th, uses only USCDI v1 FHIR APIs, which are documented. And if you go to the appendix below, this is a long appendix, but then you can take a look at all of the scopes that, again, we just selected right before. And if we only include this, so for example, we did observation.search labs R4, this is a USCDI core data set. So that is mandated by the government that the patient should actually have access to. If you're using only that, then when you click on this button, save and ready to production, your app is going to be distributed to all of these hospitals that you see here immediately. There is, like, again, it's not immediate as with Epic, but it will get distributed in a day or two, right? And then after that, your patients can actually start using your app with all of these different EHRs. Again, these are EHR instances for these hospitals. But let's look at what else do we need. So only reads data from Epic. Yep. We are only going to do that. Is patient facing, does not use refresh tokens or uses refresh tokens, and has a client secret uploaded by the vendor for that community member. So again, ideally, just don't use refresh tokens and just load it every single time. But if you want to use refresh tokens, then have a client secret, and then we actually said that there is no client secret in the previous thing, but then if you want, you just need to check this and then provide the JWK URL. And if you do all that and mark it for ready for production, then that's about it. Congratulations, in another 2 days, your app will be accessible by millions of patients. Now, there are also other automatic client distribution strategies. Now, again, this is, it's always a small subset in all of these. So, for example, if you use only DSTU FHIR APIs and use only what is listed in the appendix below, or if you only use the explanation of benefit, which is like related to insurance, then you qualify. Or if you're, if you're a TEFCA directory, then you can also get automatic client distribution. But in my experience, using the USCDI scopes, again, this is not a trivial appendix. This is like huge, right? Like you have all of these that you can do. And if your apps are limited to this, or if you can function with only these scopes, then I would suggest that you stick to that, and then you only select the scopes that are required. And if you do that, and if you mark it for ready for production, then yeah, you're going to have no issues. And even if you include one single extra scope that is not under this appendix, then obviously it's going to take you much longer. You have to go through the vendor service agreement. You got to go through like a lot more process. And again, your customer or like the EHR, they need to manually download your client onto their system, right? So the manual client ID distribution process is also documented. I think I have another video on that, but it's a lot more tedious, and you need to first sign a BAA with everyone. If it's a patient app, if it's just using the USCDI scopes, you don't need a BA. The patient is authenticating for you, right? And the US government has already allowed all of these scopes. They're actually not allowing, they're mandating that every EHR needs to expose this information. So use it to your benefit, and hopefully you are able to get your Epic app in production, and people start using it and they benefit from the innovation that you're working on. I really hope you all the best. And if you have any questions or comments, just let me know down in the comments below. You can also join a webinar that I do every month. We usually talk about how integration with Epic works and the broader context of FHIR in general. So if that's something that you're interested in and want to join a community of other people like you, just do join the webinar. Just there's a registration link down in the description. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.